Today, two worlds will clash against each other in one final, ultimate battle. The world of knee-dragging track warriors and canyon carvers, and the world of supermoto hooligans and poor policemen desperately trying to catch them. Leaning in or counter-leaning? Let the battle begin! Marc Marquez vs Thomas Charret, Quinn Rediker vs Richard van Schouwenberg, Ryan F9 vs Moto-Jitsu. How come that everybody uses different riding techniques, and which one should you, me, or any other normal average rider use to ride better? To answer this question, at first we will discuss the reasons why some riders hang off the bike in the first place. And for this we will need a brief history lesson. MotoGP riders always hang off their bikes in corners, and they are the best riders in the world. Case closed, hanging off is the way to go. But is it? Despite how cool MotoGP racers look now, dragging their elbows around the corners, it was not always the case. If we look at road racing from earlier times, we will clearly see that riders from different eras used different riding styles. Is it because they were stupid and had no clue how to ride properly? Doubtful. More likely is that riding styles and body position changed along with motorcycles, which were evolving too. Early bikes were sluggish hunks of metal, not very fast and not very easy to lean and turn. Which is why racers back in the day actually used counter-leaning to help themselves to lean the bike a bit faster and easier. All this talk about old, slow and sluggish bikes remind me of a particular motorcycle brand from nowadays. Weirdly enough, people who ride those bikes often also tend to use counterbalancing a lot. Never mind, it's probably just a coincidence. Another reason for use of counterbalancing for racing back in the day was a lack of rear suspension on those bikes. Using counterbalancing allowed racers to lean the bike more, which allowed the frame to flex a little bit, making it sort of like a suspension. With time, motorcycles were becoming more advanced and complex, and also fast, which meant that now wind drag and aerodynamics were becoming more and more important. Now, racers were forced to tuck in and minimize their aerodynamic drag on the bike. On the other hand, counter-leaning became obsolete, since bikes now had suspension and became more nimble than before. So at the time, riders just tucked themselves and stayed pretty much neutral on the bike. There was just no apparent reason to counterbalance anymore. Weird, eh? No hanging off the bike and no pushing it down either. Truly a blissful, simpler time. Despite racing bikes were becoming better and faster at the time, they still had pretty bad tires. You know, them really skinny tires with deep grooves and hard rubber, which Bajaj now puts onto their mopeds and hipsters put on their Royal Enfields and Triumphs. Back in the day, it was all they had though. So even racing bikes didn't have too much traction and couldn't lean very far in corners. Fast forward few decades, as free love was going out of fashion and demand for good quality rubber was increasing, chemical industry finally started producing some decent soft compounds for racing tires. And not a moment too soon, as bikes were finally stopped looking like big bicycles with engines and started to transform into incredibly fast and powerful machines we know today. Now they were able to accelerate, brake and turn much faster than ever before. To keep up with faster speeds and steeper leaning angles, racers had to develop some new riding style. With higher speed, it becomes harder to toss the bike from side to side quickly with just the counter steering, if you stay neutral. Now, moving the weight of the body helps a lot with cornering. As well, it reduces the lean angle of the bike itself, which in turn prevents it to hit the ground with foot pegs. It was not an issue before, but now, with better tires, the bike can easily lean up to the foot pegs if rider stays in neutral position. So people started to hang off the bike into the turn. And from that point on, as motorcycles were becoming faster and tires were having more and more grip, racers had to lean inside more and more, up to the point that now they are dragging elbows and almost lying on the asphalt as they are going through a corner. As we can see from our brief history lesson, riding styles always change and adapt to advancement in motorcycle and tire design. Would Geoff Duke win modern MotoGP with his 50s riding style? Doubtful. But would Rossi's leg dangle and extreme body position be much of an advantage in 1953 Grand Prix? Probably not either. More so, riding styles adapt to circumstances in which the bike is being used, such as speed or amount of traction. That's why, for example, some supermoto riders like to use counter-leaning instead of hanging off the bike. It lets them flip the bike from side to side a bit faster, and at the same time, since the speeds in Supermoto are slower than in MotoGP, more wind drag and little bit more force required for counter-steering doesn't bother them too much. Which brings us neatly to the real meat of this video, which are pros and cons of each body position style and which one should we choose ourselves for riding on the streets. Let's start with hanging off the bike. The most obvious benefit is that our bike stops scraping its foot pegs in faster corners. Second one is that since our bike itself is more vertical than when we remain neutral, its suspension works more effectively, giving us a bit more overall grip in the corner. This is not a huge difference, by the way, since as you can see here, even on very light motorcycle the difference in lean angle of the bike is not very big, and on anything heavier it will be even smaller. But it's a difference nonetheless, and it should be considered when riding on the absolute edge of traction. Riding knee down also allows us to use our knee as a feeler gauge of sorts, which gives us more feel of how much we are leaning. And we also can use our knee as a last resort to help us regain traction in case one of the tires starts to lose it. Again, it works better for lighter bikes though. Shifting our body weight inside the turn can help with leaning the bike at higher speeds when counter-steering starts to require more force. We can notice a pattern here. Higher speeds, big lean angles, edge of tire traction, all the benefits from full knee-down body position really start to manifest themselves only during pretty aggressive and fast-paced riding. They don't really matter much if we ride a bit easier. On the other hand, knee-down body position have some major disadvantages as well. For example, it is more difficult to stop fast suddenly mid-corner going knee-down, since one of our knees can't clamp to the tank, and a lot of force inevitably go through our arms, making our braking less confident and effective. Another thing is that our head now is located closer to the inside of the turn, which reduces our vision, especially in closed corners. And speaking of vision, our bike now pretty much blocks half of our field of view. All this stuff make the full knee-down body position less than ideal choice for day-to-day riding. Unless we ride our bike at absolute extreme, which we probably shouldn't do on public roads, we can't really enjoy all the benefits. But we must suffer some drawbacks for no apparent reason. What we can use instead, though, is a thing which a lot of people refer as mirror kissing. The kind of body position which is somewhere in the middle in between of the neutral and full racing knee down. In this case, we move only our upper body without moving our butt from side to side. This way, we gain less traction than in full body position, but at the same time, there are almost no drawbacks either. After a little practice, we can move our upper body almost without upsetting the suspension, and we can do it even in the middle of the turn. On higher speeds, it still helps a little with turning in, but at the same time, we keep all our vision and remain sitting firmly in the seat, clamping with both our knees against the tongue. Long story short, full racing knee-down riding is better left for a track. On the street, it is mostly a showing off than a real necessity. Okay, but what about counter-leaning? After all, when Ford 9 went to a police motorcycle course, I can't have a day off without someone commenting under one of my videos something like "Hey, you're doing everything wrong, you must counterbalance, Ford 9 told me to." And yeah, I mean, dude has 2 million subscribers, makes witty penis jokes and draws pretty neat pictures with colored chalk. How can he possibly be wrong? And maybe he's not. Let's see which benefits we can rip off from this sweet counterbalancing. When riding on pavement, counterbalancing can give us two major advantages. First one can prove quite useful. As we already discussed, by using counterbalancing we can flick our bike faster from side to side. If we keep our body vertical and let the bike lean underneath, we exclude part of our body mass, which is located on top of our bike from this angular motion. This reduces mass moment of inertia in vertical plane, so we can flick our bike faster from side to side. It can be useful sometimes, for example, if we need to swerve around something on the road really fast. With counterbalancing, we'll do it faster, easier, and with less effort. Faster transitions are also the reason why counterbalancing is used quite often on motorcycle rodeos or smaller Moto Gymkhana courses, or even on tighter supermoto tracks. Second significant advantage of counterbalancing manifests itself in slower speed situations, when we want to make a really tight turn. How it works? The turning radius of any motorcycle depends on how much the front wheel is turned and how far the bike itself is leaned. The turn of handlebars is more important though. If we can turn our bike with handlebars in full lock position, we'll get a decent sized turn even with completely upright bike. But if we want to make our turn even smaller, we want to lean our bike more. We can achieve it either by going faster if we have really good tires and clean pavement, or we can use counterbalancing technique. We move our body outside, and the bike itself has to lean more to keep our overall center of mass in the right place. So yeah, our creative Canadian friend was right, counterbalancing actually can be pretty useful. Although, just like with knee-down body position, we can see a common theme here. Counterbalancing is mostly useful on rather slow speed. That's why it is used mostly for rodeos, Moto Gymkhana and supermoto riding, which takes place on tighter tracks. And even in supermoto lately, they use counterbalancing less and less. If we watch recent races, they definitely use it much less than in previous years. So, we shouldn't really use counterbalancing as one and only go-to technique. Yes, it can be quite useful, but not all the time. There is no need, for example, to counter-lean at high speed, reducing the ground clearance and scraping hardware against the road. There is just no benefit from it. What can we get out of all this? Both hanging off the bike and counterbalancing definitely have their uses, and ideally, any good rider should at least try to become familiar with them, just to get a feeling of anything. Because one thing is to watch and listen smart-ass YouTubers, and much better thing is to experience it and decide it for yourself. That's why I included the basics of leaning into the turn as well as counterbalancing into my King of the Road Advanced Riding course, which you can check out using the link below the video. But despite both of those techniques have their place, they also have their limitations. So they shouldn't really be used blindly in each and every situation. Sometimes they are beneficial and sometimes they are not. And only practice and understanding of those techniques can give you an answer to which one is safer and better. Sometimes it's leaning into the turn, sometimes it's counterbalancing, and sometimes it's staying neutral or even some kind of middle state. And that's pretty much it. Have a great day and ride safe. Bye!